Hey everyone, and welcome to the candidate interviews for the .NET Foundation board member elections. I'm Sara Chips, and I'll be here interviewing several of the candidates. We'll get started because I know we're starting a little late. So I'm going to welcome the first candidate that I'm interviewing this evening, Rodrigo.
Hi, Sara.
Hi, Rodrigo. How's it going?
It's going great. How about you?
Good, good. I see that you're an MVP.
I
Um,
am. I am. Since 12 years ago, I have been in the program. Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Congrats on your running for election. Good luck.
Yeah. Thank
Um,
you.
it's a great position. I've been doing it for the past year. So,
Yeah, I know. I
um,
know. I was a candidate last year. However, I didn't win.
yeah,
And of course, it's a role that has a lot of action, right? And a lot of responsibility. So,
it does. It does. I'm glad you're running again. I watched a video recently with a former Miss USA, and she said she ran 5 times before she was picked. So this is your second time. Great.
that's a relief. That's a relief. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So let's get started. I
Sure.
my first question for you is, why are you running for this role?
Yeah, Sarah. I've been using .NET since 2001, and my entire career is based on .NET. So I owe .NET a lot, and I'm running because I care about .NET, and I want to change over and strengthen the perception that people has about .NET, because it's not the first choice for technology businesses and governments and students. They don't use .NET nowadays, so that's why I care, and I'm running for this position. So, yeah,
That's great. Uh, I also have been doing .NET since 2001. It's been a really long time.
it is right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
So,
that's great. What's your background with the .NET Foundation?
well, mostly as a final user for some of the open source projects available and sponsored by the foundation. On the other hand, as I said, I ran as a candidate last year. So, yeah, I don't have any open source projects. I do have some open source projects related with some training courses that I record for LinkedIn Learning in both Spanish
Cool.
language and English language. However, I didn't have the opportunity yet uh, to contribute to some of the projects available. So yeah,
That's great.
yeah,
I have a LinkedIn Learning subscription until the end of the month, so I'll have to check those out.
yeah, well, absolutely, yeah,
That's very cool. That's very cool. So I think that segues into our next question well, because you've already started talking about them. But can you talk a little more about your contributions to the .NET community?
yeah. Well, I've been contributing to the community mostly through live events at Microsoft and non-Microsoft events in USA and Latin America and Europe as well. And as I said, I have also been recording a lot of training courses related to .NET technologies for LinkedIn Learning in both the Spanish language and English language as well. And furthermore, I have a weekly podcast related with .NET. It's a weekly podcast about software architecture, software development, new technologies, everything related to .NET. So um, yesterday I published the 148th episode.
Wow.
So yeah, more than 3 years. I have been doing this podcast. So yeah, you can listen to that one in Spotify and Apple Podcast as well. Yeah.
That's great. What is your podcast called for the people that
The,
are
the name of the
watching?
podcast is Interfaz, which is the Spanish language name for interface.
Hmm.
You can say interfaz in Spanish and it's an interface, right? So, yeah, Interfaz podcast. That's the name, and you can search for it in Spotify and Apple Podcast as well. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, what experience do you have that lends itself for you to be on the board?
Yeah, I'm in the board of directors of my own company, so of course that doesn't count. And I think, Sarah, that this role needs strong technical leadership, of course. However, I think that the role needs empathy as well as understanding of social dynamics. So I know how to play well with others through empathy and understanding of those social dynamics. I've been traveling around Latin America for over a decade, and I understand all the struggles and all the idiosyncrasies that people has, for .NET and around .NET and Microsoft since more than 10 years ago. So I know the struggles, and I want to change that. I want to help Microsoft and the .NET Foundation to make over and just to start from by using some fresh eyes, right? So
That makes sense. You
yeah.
said you were on the board of your own company?
That's right. That's right. My company is a telemedicine solutions company based in Mexico, and we do healthcare solutions by using .NET and Microsoft technologies. And of course that doesn't count itself as a requirement for the board of directors of the .NET Foundation. However, I know how things work inside an organization, and I want to help the .NET team and Microsoft to make .NET the best product ever.
That's great.
Yeah.
What are some challenges you run into on the board of your company that you think might translate to the .NET Foundation board?
Yeah, for example, this happened 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Uh, I sent a request for proposal document for a government institution that wanted this kind of solution, whatever.
Mhm.
And they rejected the proposal because we weren't using open source technologies, which is funny because the
Fascinating.
proposal included .NET Core and all the open source
All open source.
technologies
Yeah, yeah.
around. Yeah, so it's very sad, and it's very. I mean, it's quite challenging for us technologists that we want to do projects and solutions based on .NET, and government institutions and businesses, they don't have this they have this wrong perception
Yeah,
of
yeah.
.NET, right? So yeah, I think it's the main challenge that I face nowadays. Yeah.
Wow. And .NET started open sourcing almost 10 years ago.
That's right. I know, right? So what's going on? I mean, it's not the same Microsoft since, you know, uh, since Satya Nadella, and it's not your old father's Microsoft, right? Is that the way
Yeah.
that you say it in English? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. It's a new Microsoft. There's a lot of things going on. The .NET team has been doing a great job for the technology and the platform, and us MVPs and regional directors are crazy about it. And it's so sad that we have to face those kind of things, right?
Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
think that the .NET Foundation can approach that? What are some things you think that would be great?
Yeah, maybe, we have to go to the roots. We have to go to the origin of those idiosyncrasies. And I think the .NET Foundation has to invest a lot in education and universities, and go back to the roots, and make students use the technology. And of course, not only students, but also professors and teachers, because they are the ones that are saying to the students, hey, please use Java, please use PHP. Those are open source technologies. And .NET is an open source technology as well. So yeah, I think the .NET Foundation can invest a lot in education and, just a way to improve and marketing uh, around .NET, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
yeah.
Okay, final question. If you could choose between the superpower of being invisible or flying, which would you pick?
Invisibility or flying? Well, that's a tough one. Okay, I would go to invisibility.
Okay, and
Because
why?
yeah, I remember the Fantastic Four. You remember that one? And I was a fan when I was a child of the Invisible Woman. So yeah, I think invisibility can get you anywhere. It will be awesome.
That's great. Well,
Yeah,
thanks so much and good luck. Good luck
yeah.
over the
Thank you for
election
having me.
period. It was great talking to you and
Thank you.
hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, next up, we have Jerome Hardaway.
Hey,
Welcome, Jerome.
hey, how
How's
you
it
doing? Can you
going?
hear me? Huh?
How's it going? Is that a Captain America shield?
Oh, this is actually my EDC shield, right? I take this with me. It's a backpack. I always take whenever I leave, like to conferences and stuff. This is the one I go to. Uh, this is my home one,
This is your
right?
home one.
Oh yeah,
Amazing.
oh yeah. I have. They call me Captain America of the Web for a reason, right? So.
That is so great. I was so impressed with my own new gamer chair, but yours is so much cooler with your Captain America.
Hey, I mean, you gotta live the title to earn the title, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Well, welcome. Excited to be able to interview you. We're for these upcoming elections. Um, why don't we get started? My first question is, can you tell us why you're running for the board for the .NET Foundation?
Roger that. I was actually asked initially to throw my hat in the ring to run for the board. I wasn't even thinking about it. Some of like the things that you have done in the past half decade is what our organization needs. We need that polarization. We need that charge in the veins, and someone that brings the ruckus and get things done. And you're the person for the job. They heard all the things that I've done in tech in the past 6-7 years since being a part of tech, and just how I've changed the open source communities with JavaScript and with diversity and minorities and veterans. And they were like, you're the guy. So I was like, sure, if you guys need me, I'm here for it.
That's great. Can you tell me a little bit about how you brought the ruckus?
Roger that. I am a U.S. combat veteran that transitioned into software engineering in less than a year.
Wow.
Coming back home, and then I turned around and I helped 252 is my current count. Other veterans and military spouses get into the industry, teaching them how to use MERN-stack, MEAN-stack, and JAM-stack to learn how to code through my nonprofit Vets Who Code. The whole time raising a family and working full time. My last job was actually with CBSI. Shout out to the comic book crew. And now I'm with Quicken Loans as their dev advocate. So like I said, I've been pushing, as we say in the military, pushing pavement really hard the past 6 years.
Wow. When do you take a break?
If they wanted me to take a break, they'd issue me one. So I'm good.
Yeah, that's funny. That's great. Okay. What is your background with the .NET Foundation?
Actually, my .NET Foundation background is Nilch, non-zero. I was very shocked when I was even asked for it because I told them I've written maybe 6 lines of .NET my entire career. And they were like, well, that's what we actually need. Somebody who knows why people decide not to choose .NET, someone who's changed lives with code and willing to do, who can do the work. And that's one thing that I bring to the organization. My experience is code agnostic when it comes to what I can do. I know how to change communities and thought processes because I've done that with code already. So it's just going from JavaScript to C#.NET with it. I already know that C# and .NET are both open source. Very few people know that. The thing is, everybody keeps going through this processes of putting boots on the ground and these colleges and universities. That's not how we did it in the JavaScript world. We chose it as we did a very Promethean approach with it, and we went directly to the people. We went to YMCAs, we went to everyday people because we already know that from the data that's been collected that the next generation of amazing engineers, they're not going to be coming from your colleges. They're going to be coming from those favelas, from those neighborhoods that are small and represented in tech, that from the veteran military bases that our communities don't really jump into. And that's where, I thrive in, being a frontline leader and jumping right into the places that, people, quite frankly, don't go to because they want to go to the more comfortable university route, right? So that's how I bring it.
That's great. That's amazing. So we've already heard that you've not written much .NET, but not written much C# or any of the or ASP.NET or any .NET technologies. But you've talked a little bit about the experience you have that lends itself to be part of the board. So can you talk a little more about that? I'm sure that you've run into some similar things while running your nonprofit that you think you might run into on the board. Can you talk a little about that?
Roger that. I mean, the main problem that people are talking about every day with .NET is the adoption, right? People, even myself, I was like, .NET is the framework you go to when you're ready to be boring and get a comfortable, cushy old person job, right? It's not for the people that want to change the world. That was my own stigma. That's the stigma that .NET has across the globe, especially with people who want to do cool things and save the world, right? So part of my mission is the same when it comes to JavaScript, is to be able to change that stigma and show, no, we're here, everyone can do it. You don't have to have that proxy or that gatekeeping of wanting to go to universities or some big enterprise tech to be able to use this technology. So that's one of the things that I bring to the table as well. Like I said, change and adopting. No one in 2014, 2013 thought veterans en masse could learn how to code. And then my first year as a nonprofit, I produced 50 veterans with jobs, in 12 states, learning how to code. And now I'm at 252 in 37, right? So there's no one who has real world experience of actually changing people's perception of things and getting adoption to the point that a sitting president notices what you're doing. My first year, I produced so many quality engineers that Barack Obama invited me to the White House. So,
how cool is that?
Oh, he's tall. He smells like cookies. It was pretty awesome. And that's
so
it.
Great.
My humor, right? You can't if anything, when things are going down, I'm gonna make everybody laugh. Because that's the only thing, laughter is a new medicine. But yeah, that's what I do. That's how I bring it. I don't sit around in dogma and theory. I do work. I have a GSD mentality, get shit done. We need change. I'm the first person that's gonna put my hands in the mud and start moving things. And I'm the last person that's gonna be at the dinner table, right? I enjoy my 16-hour work days. I live for this stuff. I live for changing lives. I don't do tech, I do lives. And that's what the .NET Foundation really needs. They have to focus off of the technology ideals and be like, no, what we do is lives. We can change lives. My first family that I created when I had helped a veteran get to Microsoft as a DevOps engineer, and he got his offer letter, and then within 12 hours we're at his celebration party, and he proposed to his girlfriend, their fiance, Scott Hanselman, and I take them out to dinner, to breakfast as their first morning of being fiancés. And then he moves to Seattle to join Microsoft, and then he marries her while in Seattle.
Amazing.
That's what we do, right? And that's what the .NET community and .NET Foundation needs. I need people who are willing to say, no, let's change lives. Let's not talk about code in theory, but let's use code to change lives and let people know what they can do with it.
That's amazing. That's really inspiring. Okay, last question. If you could compare yourself to one animal, which would it be and why?
Tiger, because I was born year of the tiger, so I like tigers. There you go.
That's great. Tigers are great. Well, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your thoughts, Jerome, and good luck in this upcoming election.
Roger that. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining. Okay, next up, we have Jeff Strauss with us, who's going to talk through our questions as he has put his hat in the ring.
Hey, Sarah. How are
Jeff,
you?
long time no see.
I know. I don't think we've talked since probably since Never on the Sun closed up. Huh?
Yeah, that was a fun adventure. And I learned so much from y'all about hosting an online conference.
It was something. It was an adventure. I think that's a good word for it, but I think it came out all right.
I think it came out great. That was awesome.
Great stuff from Jerome, huh? I don't actually know him. That was pretty cool. He's got a great story, great background. It's pretty neat. I need to get to know him. That's cool.
Yeah, and I need a superhero brand.
Yeah, I can't pull off walking around with the Captain America shield. Like I don't think I couldn't pull it off. It's pretty neat.
That's great. All right. Well, I'll kick off with questions. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're running to be part of the .NET Foundation board?
Yeah, sure. I love the things the foundation does, and we know each other a little bit, and the community is a huge thing for me. I've been spending the last 10 plus years really deeply involved in the developer community, not only speaking, but running events, mentoring speakers, mentoring organizers, helping grow communities. Here where I live in St. Louis and in the Midwestern region of the United States, but also all over the world. And I think the foundation does some really good things around the open source community and around helping keep the .NET community and ecosystem around it healthy and provide some continuity. But I think there's so many more things that we could be doing well as an organization, not only from the standpoint of helping existing libraries in the ecosystem, but also making sure that maybe lesser known developers and communities find out about us, maybe authors of libraries who don't realize that they have support in a community around them to back them up, whether in .NET or even in .NET friendly, like Jerome was saying, he's not really a .NET guy by trade, but that's important too. We can support the JavaScript community and Jamstack stuff and all that. And I think it's important to help get the word out there. And because of my connection to communities, I want to do that. The other thing is, I think, and I've been having some conversations with people, I guess, over the last, really year or more around the interaction between the foundation and industry, right? Not just open source developers, but businesses large and small, because open source is something that impacts everybody. Again, as Jerome was just saying, .NET is largely open source, more and more of it every day. And large organizations are using open source software, but they don't necessarily know what that means or how to use it well, how to contribute to it, how to feel confident being engaged in the open source ecosystem and community. I think there's a lot that we could do to engage industry and to make sure that organizations know how to interact with the developer community in a healthy way. And that's one thing I want to see us do better as a foundation.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Can you talk a little bit about your background with the .NET Foundation in general?
Sure. So I've been involved for, a couple of years with the foundation itself, not super heavily. It actually kind of all started I was on a trip at an event Oh gosh, 2.5 years ago. It was when John Galloway was still the executive director, before Claire took the reins, and we were together at this event, and we ended up spending a day together. We were in Bulgaria, of all places, and
Wow, wow.
but we ended up spending a day together, walking around. We did this big food tour, just kind of walking the streets. It was like a really cool free food tour thing to learn about culture and everything else. And over the course of the day, not only did we talk about food, but we spent some time talking about the community and about what he was trying to do to the foundation and what he was trying to do around open source stuff. And we talked a bit. I have a background. I always say hashtag not your lawyer, but I do have a background as an attorney, and I spend a lot of time.
So what you're saying is all of this is legal advice?
Yeah, none of this is legal advice.
Okay.
That is exactly right. So, right. So we were talking about licenses and how to give better information to developers, help them make better choices, and help them make sure that they were protected, but also they knew how to share with the community in a proper way. And we had a few follow-up conversations over time, and then he encouraged me to join the foundation, which I did. And I've had a good number of conversations with various members and people who support open source as part of the foundation over the years. And then, of course, Dev Around the Sun was probably the largest thing I've done in connection with the foundation, along with you and Claire and a bunch of other great people. Just this past spring during the whole COVID, in the current times, whatever these are.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's great. Can you talk about your contributions to the .NET community in general? I know you've done more around conferences.
Sure. Yeah. So despite my past as an attorney, I am a developer and a cloud architect and all by trade. During my day job, I work for a company here in St. Louis called Worldwide Technology. So I do dev stuff. And I've made some contributions directly to open source over time, but really like you said, my big interaction with not only the .NET community, but the developer community in general has been around events. I'm on the board of directors for KCDC, the Kansas City Developers Conference. I have been on the board along with John Mills, Lee Brandt, and Boone Lee for the last 4 or so years. Before that, I helped run an event that's called DevUp, that used to be the St. Louis Days of .NET here for about 7 years. I'm involved in running a thing called Meta Conference, which is like a think tank where we bring together organizers on 6 continents together, and we have like a little. We started it out in connection with the MVP Summit up in Redmond, but now we're trying to do it more online and bring organizers together to help grow everybody and let everybody collaborate so that we make everyone's communities and events better. I run a couple of Slack organizations, and then in the Dev Around the Sun more recently, which hopefully will repeat, although hopefully it won't still be for COVID, and we'll have some support.
Hopefully there's another crisis. Just kidding.
So community stuff all around is really the name of the game for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Can you talk about the experience you have that lends itself specifically to being on the board? Maybe some more legal experience or
Yeah, sure. So to the point of the 2 major things that I really want to be involved in and the impact I want to have in connection with the foundation and being on the board is I want to make sure that I use my experience as a community organizer and leader to help the foundation, help all of us get together and do more to bring communities up. And then, my legal background is not just, I'm not a practicing lawyer today anyway, but I do spend a lot of time speaking at events and teaching people and mentoring people around open source software, around intellectual property. I've even spent some time, even though it's not my day job, I've spent time working with general counsel of my own company and at other organizations, helping them to understand those things I'm talking about, where I want to see the foundation get involved in industry and see us get involved with executives and leaders and help them become better stewards of the open source community from a business perspective. I do that already today in a lot of respects. And so I just want to bring that to the foundation and lend the credibility of our organization to help grow it.
I bet you're really helpful when it comes to licenses.
I try to be. I try to be without giving, I try to not be prescriptive about it, right? But I think it's important to understand the distinctions and the differences. And it's so often you create like a new repo in GitHub and says, which license do you want? And there's some guidance and help, and you pick one and that's it. But I think a lot of times neither the consumers or the authors really necessarily know the reason why they choose the one they choose. Or they pick MIT because it's really permissive and it's easy, or they pick Apache because someone told them to, but I don't know how many people really spend the time, day in and day out, developers spend the time to think about that. Certainly the developers who consume the open source, who are always in a race to just sort of go and solve problems as quickly as they can. And so they search in Google, they find the first thing that solves their problem, they click go, they accept, the terms and conditions, great, and they move. And maybe that wasn't the best idea. And so the more we can educate people around that, the fewer issues we'll have seeing open source being used in industry and in the enterprise, which means the more it'll be adopted. Because when you don't have negative outcomes of people using open source, then you're going to have more and more companies and more organizations willing to use it more freely, more comfortably. Everybody grows, everybody benefits.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been in too many meetings about licenses in the past couple weeks, but it sounds like you'd be helpful.
I would get that.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, classic question, if you could pick the superpower of being invisible or flying.
Flying.
Why?
Well, a couple things. For whatever reason, I mean, being invisible seems like it'd be cool, but it also seems a little shady to me. But flying, I grew up, I'm not a pilot, but my father is not a commercial pilot, he's like a general aviation pilot. And it was a thing that he chose to do when I was very young. So we'd have something kind of unique and special to do, like a father-son. I'm the firstborn. And so, yeah, I don't want to ever have to the risk or the expense of flying, but if I could just swing, wave my arms and go in the sky, it's beautiful up there. You get a sense of perspective when you're up in the sky looking down at the earth that you don't get anywhere else. And yeah, I wouldn't trade that for anything. Flying, hands down.
Same. Great. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, and good luck in the coming election. It's an exciting time, and fingers crossed.
Thanks so much. It's great to see you, and
great to see you. I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
That's right. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Okay, great. So head over to .NETfoundation.org to find out more about the interviews of other candidates, as well as seeing the platforms the candidates are running on, some of their opinions on .NET in general and the board. And thank you so much for joining us for these candidate interviews.